Good morning, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, and another occasion where we go into a jeweller's workshop somewhere around Australia. This week, live onto our Facebook page and also to our sister business in New Zealand. We're also broadcasting live onto our YouTube page. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Kirra-lea Caynes from the South Island of Australia.
Hello.
Welcome, Kirra-lea. Kirra-lea,
thank you for having me again.
Thank you, Kirra-lea's been a real stalwart with her demonstrations and a popular demonstrator here on. And Kirra-lea, today we're continuing our journey in sandcasting. We're looking at cleaning up your mixed metal castings. Would you like
That's right,
to do
yeah. So sort of continuing on from our last lesson where we were leaving pieces sort of like this. I'm just going to show you how to clean them up, because sometimes they come apart, you know, the mixed metal components separate from each other, and just showing you how to solder them together and join them together. Or we've got this really cool drippy sort of looking copper casting over the top of the silver, and how to clean up that copper and really make it look as liquidy as possible, and make the silver textured to really separate it from that copper and make it as melted bubblegummy as possible. And also things like troubleshooting, like when your castings don't go quite right, and how to clean them up and make them look more intentional.
Sounds
so I guess
great.
Yeah, should I start?
Let's say.
Shall we start?
Yes, thank you very much, Kirra-lea. That'd be great. Can
Awesome.
you hear me okay?
Yes, you do cut in and out a little bit, but it's okay. It's all right. Could be worse. Okay. Alrighty. So normally when I'm cleaning up...
Sorry to interrupt there. I'll just ask our viewers if they're having any issues with hearing as well. Do a service to bring this to you. So if there's any issues, please let us know online there. If you could just say whether your hearing is okay, and that would be great. Okay, sorry.
No, yeah. So when I'm cleaning up castings, I normally wait until I have a whole heap of them to clean them up. So it's like a production line. So you're saw piercing off the sprues of all your castings, and then you're filing the sprue down flush on all your castings. So you're doing all of these stages at exactly at the same time. It will save you time, even though you're doing it like the same thing 5 times over. It will actually save you time, and just make sure it's all nice and consistent as well. So normally if I have a big sprue on top like this, I will just use my bolt cutters to chop that off. But you can also saw pierce that off if you need to. So I have beeswax, my saw, and I have probably a size 02, I think it's called, an 02. So fairly coarse, but not the coarsest you can get. My birds are flying around the house.
Hey,
I didn't need them to be in here. Sorry. So I'm just going to cut that sprue off, that copper sprue. Yeah, sorry. I thought I locked them all away, but I must have left the door open. So chirping away in here. I hope they're not too noisy. Sneaky.
Your sawing will probably set them off.
Could do. Just noise. Yeah, they love it. All right, so I'm almost through that copper sprue now. There we go. And while I'm at it, I'm going to flip it around and cut off the silver bit. It is... Ooh, where's my phone? There we go. It is fairly flush where I cut that off, but it'll be faster for me to cut it off with my saw than it will be with my file. So even if you're not super comfortable with your saw piercing, the only way to get better at it is by doing it. So probably try and use your saw as much as possible because it does take metal off very quickly. It is the fastest option. I know it doesn't seem like it's very fast when you're watching me do it. It's kind of like watching water boil, isn't it? All right, so I've chopped through it that way, but now I'm going to turn it this way and go through it. Oh, funny trying to get that, isn't it? All right, so yeah, I've got some extra. Oh my gosh, we got it. Ooh, yep. There we go. So instead of filing these parts off, which you can do, but again, it is faster if you just saw pierce them off, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to pop it over here. I'm going to come down and cut that off. And on this side as well. Now I would go and cut all of the sprues from all of my pieces immediately. So I put that aside, I've cut off the sprue, then I'd move on to my other pieces and cut the sprues off of them as well. But, you know, that's kind of boring for you guys to sit there and watch me do that, so I won't. But what I will do is I'll file down. Oh, I wish I didn't start this one. I'm not in love with it. And that's okay. You don't have to love everything you make. Oh, terrible. You know what? I might clean up one I prefer the look of. Sorry. Because, you know, I want it to look good when I show you guys. And I want it to look really impressive, but if I can see that it's not, you know, I don't love it, kind of means that maybe you guys won't love it either. And I want you to see the piece as it's finished and go, wow, that's beautiful. And not just like, oh, it's all right. Why would you bother mixed metal casting, you know? I want you to be excited and go, wow, I want a mixed metal cast. So I'm just chopping sprues off this other one, a ring that I think is quite attractive and should have a bit more of a wow factor than that first one. It just had some really impressive sprues, that other one. This is why I picked it up to cut the sprues off. I didn't think the whole process through. Alrighty, so instead of cutting the sprues off everything, just, you know, just two of them. And now I've got my course file. So my course file, I think it's like 00, something like that. 00. It's a bit old and worn out, so it's not working as fast and as well as it used to. I do have a new one. Have I set it up? No. So we're going to be using this old worn out file, but it'll do the job. And it's got the flat side and the half round side. You buy these from AJS, but they don't come with the handles. You have to buy the file and the handle separately. That way you get to choose which handle you want to put on your file. And I always love going for the big, chunky wooden handles. Feels really good in my hands. All right, let's just file that sprue down flush. So I'm just coming in with some really long strokes, and I'm following, oh, it's wobbling, sorry. And I'm following the profile of the ring. So I'm not coming in with like really flat little like, I'm not beveling little flat spots everywhere. I'm moving with the ring. So I'm keeping that rounded profile rounded. I'm not trying to knock any little flat spots on here. All right, so I'm blending that in. And because it's a rounded profile, not only is it long sweeping file marks, but it's also rolling. I'm still rolling over that profile. So again, no flat spots. I'm just going to take that seam off as well, because there's always going to be a little bit of a casting seam. So I'm just going to file that down flush as well. So I'm working on the copper side at the moment, and I'm quite happy to go all over the outside of that copper surface, because I know I'm going to be putting quite a smooth finish over that surface. So I'm removing all the casting marks all together. That whole casting surface is coming off. I'm not intentionally removing it, but I just know that I will be removing it, so I'm not protecting that sand casting texture. But now I'm coming down to the silver side of the ring, and I'm going to remove just the sections I don't want. So I'm not going to go over the whole surface of that silver part, because I want to keep as much of that sand cast texture intact as possible, because I find it's a really attractive surface, and I want to keep as much of it as original as possible. But you do have to file off your sprue, file off your seam. So unfortunately, you do lose some of that texture, but we can reapply it. I can show you how to reapply it with I don't know what it's called. I call it a stickling tool, but I think last time I was told exactly what it was, and I don't remember what it's called now. So I think one of our sales reps in Adelaide told us exactly what it was called last video. So I'm sure you can jump back on to the old conversation.
I'm doing that as we speak.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll just quickly grab the little tool I'm talking about. So it's one of whoop, there we go. It's one of these. That applies a texture to your metal that's very similar to the sand casting texture. So I like to use that to put the texture back on it. All right, I'm going to emery off my file marks. So anyway that I've got file marks, I'm just going to take them off. So I'm preparing that surface for either a polish or for I'm going to texture the sand section. I'm going to texture the silver section, which I want to have that sand cast texture. So I'm just going to remove those file marks off of the silver section. I'm going to remove the file marks off of the copper section. And your file marks usually come out a lot faster if you're cross emerying or cross filing, whatever you call it. So if I filed in one direction, there we go, filed in that direction, I'm then going to come over it with my emery paper in the opposite direction to cut it away. If I came in with that emery paper on the same direction as my file marks, it doesn't remove it as fast. You're actually following the same grooves, and you can not supposed to deepen them, but you kind of are deepening them before you're removing them. So it just takes a little bit longer for those file marks to be emeryed out if you go over them in the same direction that your file mark applied them. So I think it's called cross emerying or cross filing. All right, let's take that off. So with the copper section, like I keep mentioning,
sorry. It's called a dull matting brush. It's a pretty
dull matting brush. Yeah, cool. There we go. And you get two types of them. You get the really expensive one, and then you get the really cheap one. I personally go for the really cheap one. I think it's like $12.50 or something, where the expensive one's like, I don't know, I think it's like $85. But the expensive one is bigger, and it's a different brand, and it's designed to last longer. I get the cheaper ones because I take mine. The cheaper ones are smaller, they're not as well made, so they do break a bit faster. But I usually take my little tools with me to my classes, and sometimes students will be using them. And it doesn't matter how well made it is, if the student doesn't know what they're doing when they're using it, no matter how clear my instructions are, they will break. So I get the cheap ones because they're probably going to get broken, and I'd rather break something that's only worth $12.50 than $85.
Makes sense.
That's my reasoning. All right, so I've emeryed. Yeah. So I've emeryed the outside of this ring. I've paid particular attention to the copper section because, like I keep mentioning, I want to make it as silky, smooth, perfect polished as possible to get that melted bubblegum look that I love. So I haven't cleaned up the inside of the ring yet. So if I bring this over here, camera's in a weird spot. All right, so the outside is emery, but the inside is still rough. Need to clean that up.
Yep.
So 2 ways you can go about doing that. 2 ways? 2 ways. You can use your coarse file, and you can use the rounded part of your coarse file, which is usually my go-to because I'm very comfortable doing it. I quite like filing lots of metal, actually. So I'd get in there and I would use the rounded side of the file, and as I push in, I would twist my wrist, again making sure you're not putting flat spots on the inside of your ring. You want to keep that file moving with the contours of the ring. But sometimes if you're doing something like a bangle, or if you're just doing production style cleanups and you don't want to spend all your time filing, no matter how enjoyable, there is also this I don't know what you call it, that barrel burr, tungsten carbide barrel burr or something like that. I don't know. I apologize, I don't have all the names, but I did buy this from AJS. And it's essentially a file that you can put in your handpiece, and it just tears metal off. I don't use lubrication with it because I think it gums it up. It really gets inside of all those grooves and gums it up and stops it from being able to work properly. I don't know if I'm meant to be using lubrication, but I don't. You guys do whatever's comfortable for you. So let's put that in there, and it just tears the metal off. Make sure you have safety glasses on though, because it's tearing it off so quickly and so ferociously. It's just spitting metal everywhere. So make sure you have your safety glasses on to protect your eyes from all of these shards of metal that's flying off. So you see how I'm using it like a potato peeler? I've got one thumb resting on the other thumb, which is giving me control and stability, and then I'm just moving the little piece inside like a potato peeler, like I'm just taking off the skin of a potato. And I'm keeping it moving. If I was to hold it still, it would really dig into the inside of my ring. So I'm keeping it moving so that I'm only removing, the same sort of profile that's in there already. Just removing surface stuff. And I'm running it around until it's nice and smooth.
Does that generate much heat?
Yep, my fingers are quite warm. I can feel the heat in my fingers, but I have quite tough hands. Cool. All right, so the inside has successfully been smoothed down. Can almost see how shiny it is. Cool. All right, and then I will go in there with some emery on a little split mandrel. Do you think I have anything nice set up? No, I don't. So I'm just going to use this worn out one. All right. And then you just do the same thing, emery over what you've already done. It shouldn't take very much at all because that little whatever it is, barrel burr, it does such a smooth job at removing the material that you'll barely need to go over the inside of that with your emery paper to get that super smooth. Cool. Now let's add some texture to the silver part using our dull matting wheel thingy. Peter said it before. Again, make sure you're wearing safety glasses. They are little spikes of metal just held in by some plastic. They will come flying off and hit you in the eye. So make sure you have glasses on. And this one's actually loose. That's dangerous. Let me tighten that up. It's got a little there we go. Just tightening that up because it was loose. We don't want that. We want it to be tight. There we go. That's better. All right. So as it spins, it just gouges texture into your silver. All right, let's go. Boop. Sometimes I put my finger over the section I don't want to be textured. So I'm putting my thumb over the top of the section that I don't want textured. My thumbnail then gets textured in turn, but my metal is protected. Hooray. And I'm coming over that metal, not just going in the same direction. I'm changing that direction up a bit. And I'm just blending in anywhere that I have filed and emeryed so that it looks like sand cast texture. Cool. So let me give you a little look. Can you see that texture? Kinda. Let's see.
Yes, we can.
Coming closer.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. We can get in real close. Can you focus on it though? Kinda. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to polishing. So I'm going to polish the inside, then I'm going to polish the copper. And where's my polishing compound? I'm just using my Luxer, yellow Luxer, I think it is, and my worn out little mop. I like to use cotton mop. Again, make sure you've got safety glasses on. You don't want to spit this polishing compound up into your eyes. Nobody's happy if that happens. I also do like to wear a mask when I'm polishing, but I can't do it while I'm doing this demonstration because you won't be able to hear me particularly well. So, you know how I was mentioning cross-emerying, cross-filing before? I'm doing some cross-polishing. So because I know that my emery has gone around the inside of that ring in this direction, I'm now coming in on a bit of an angle to do, so I'm coming in on a bit of an angle with my mop, so I'm cross-emerying or cross-polishing, you know, I'm going against my emery marks. That's going to help get the emery marks out faster and make a smoother polish on the inside of my ring. Again, I'm sort of holding it like a potato peeler. All right, so the inside's nice and shiny. Now let's shiny up this copper. Trying not to hit the textured silver. And again, keeping in mind where my emery marks are so that I'm cross polishing it. I'm going against those emery marks. Going to polish faster and it's going to give me a better, smoother polish. Don't forget the sides. So you can do this on your polishing mop, like your motor, but that would involve me getting up and leaving the camera. So I'm just doing this all on the bench, where normally I'd be on my my polishing motor doing any polishing. That's not true. Not any polishing. I'm on the bench when I'm polishing the inside of my ring, but I'm on the motor if I'm polishing anything external on my PC. Why is that? That's because I get a better polish and it polishes it a lot faster when you're doing it on your big polishing mop. All right, so I've gone over that with my sort of coarse mop with lots of compound on it. Now I'm just going to go over it with a fluffy mop with hardly any compound on it. It's sort of like a, not a rouge, but like a final polish sort of thing. I will actually have to get up and pop this in the Sonic. Why don't I? But I can give you a good look at it right now. Closer, maybe.
Yep.
Right. So if I pop that
reflection,
it's quite nice, yeah. So I'm just going to pop that in the ultrasonic and come back with it in a tissue, and then you'll be able to see it a lot clearer. All right, I apologize. I'm going to leave for a second.
That's all right. On board today, and if you've got any comments for Kirra-lea or questions, please. It's certainly good to see a professional at work and see and the way she goes about her work. It's really efficient.
Alrighty.
I was just saying what a pleasure it is to see an expert at work.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, just you're so efficient in what you do, and wow, look at this.
All right, try to get that so you can see it. Oh, it's hard. It's reversing or flipping the image. So I'm doing everything backwards. It's a bit bizarre. All right, let's see. Terrible. I'm not having a good time of it, am I? It's all right. You guys can kind of see.
Yeah.
Surely.
No, it's lovely. Yeah.
Oh.
How close to finish? How close?
That's pretty much it.
Is that then? That's it.
That's pretty much it. It does need to go in the pickle for a little bit because the silver's a bit oxidized. So I'm just gonna pop that in the pickle, and that'll just lift off any of discoloration. But I'd stamp that, and that's done.
Well done. And what's the retail price on that one?
Well, I haven't priced any of the copper stuff up because I don't think people want copper, but who knows? I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe I'll sell it for like $200. Is that a lot? I don't know. Is that not enough? I don't know. So let's do another one. Let's do one where your copper component is not adhered to your silver component. They separated. So this is a little moon
get
one.
them to re-adhere?
So I'm just going to solder them together. That's the great thing about working with mixed metals. If it doesn't stay put, or if you're worried about the join, you can just run some solder through it. And then it becomes, yeah, perfectly joined. You don't have to worry about falling apart. So for example, like this one here, it kind of looks like maybe it will pull apart. If I really gave it a good wrangle, maybe it would pull apart. So what I would do for this one is I would feed solder in here and here and let it run through this join. And then I would know it would never come apart. So if you're not sure, just give it a solder. Also something like this one. Where are we? There. Don't know if you guys can see. But you see how the copper didn't fully flow down into my little cracks and crevices?
Yeah.
I could just run a bunch of solder into this section here and fill that. Or I could file the crap out of this side until those deepest recesses were flush with the rest of the metal. That takes a lot of time though. That's a lot of filing. So my options usually to fill that section as much as I can with the solder first and then go back in. If it's a particularly deep crevice, you'd ball up a bit of silver or whatever the metal is. You'd ball up a bit of your metal and then you'd solder that in. But being as shallow as that is, I'd probably just run some solder into it. Alrighty, so over here we're doing my little crescent moon, and I'm just going to cut myself a little bit of solder. Think about what solder you want to use actually, because I just picked up easy, and that's a problem because this little moon doesn't have any bales or anything attached to it that would allow it to be worn, which means I have to then solder a jump ring to it or a bale or something. And if I was to use easy solder to solder my two components together, when it came to soldering my jump ring or my bale onto it, the easy solder would run off this join and it would cause problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use hard solder so that when I come in with my bale, my jump ring, I can solder knowing that my existing solder joint is not going to run. All right. So I've got I'm using quite a hot flame because I know I've got a lot of metal here and I need to get it hot, hot, hot. And I'm just going to paste some flux over that joint. Voila. All right. Let's ball up this. I might cut that in half actually. So I've just heated that ball of solder up and used my pick to just cut it in half. So I'm going to apply one part to the inside of this, and then I'm going to apply the other to the other side of the moon. So I'm applying solder to the inside joint, and then I'll apply it to the outside. All right. Now I'm focusing a lot of my heat down on the big silver section of this moon because that's a lot of metal and I need that to heat up and meet the temperature of this copper before the two sections will solder together. So I was just focusing a lot of heat on that silver section to get it up to temperature. And now I'm going to focus in on that join. But I'm still keeping my flame angled towards the silver section of the join because I know the silver part of the joint is the part that needs the most heat because it's so big, a lot of heat's going to be lost from that section there, where the copper section is quite small in comparison and won't need heat. So I'm focusing my heat on the silver. All right, so that solder has flown, and now I'm going to come in and put some solder in from the outer side of this little moon. Oh, look at that. Hot, hot, hot. Fantastic. Join, done. And I have pickle set up in front of me. I'm just going to pop this moon straight into. You hear that? I don't know if you heard that, but it quenched quite satisfyingly. All right.
Yes.
So let's get that out and let's pop that in some bicarb water to neutralize that acid. You don't always have to use acid. You can use citric acid, which is more natural. You can use salt and vinegar, I've heard. But nothing works quite as fast as good old, like, active acid. You know, the real dangerous stuff that eats through your clothes. All right. Well, now that is and beyond. Yeah. So that is now properly joined. And I know that it's really nice and strong, and I can sell that to somebody and know that it'll never come apart. And I could go ahead and clean that up, add texture if I want to, polish it, add a bail, add a jump ring, and then a bail, whatever I wanted to do with that one. I won't clean that up right now, though, because I'm going to go on to something else that I want to clean up, which is this bangle. It's a mixed metal bangle. Now, if you are casting in silver things or in any metal really, and it doesn't fully form, it doesn't fully cast, that is actually just an opportunity for you to try mixed metal casting. So this bangle, the silver section didn't form properly. It barely formed for one reason or the other. I can't remember. So I remade the mold with the exact same master that I was using. And then I poured copper into that sand cast piece instead. So now I have half silver, half copper, and I have a bangle, which is really cool. And, you know, the join wasn't super great. They didn't adhere properly. So I did have to solder these two sections together, which I've already done. But I don't know if you guys can see. Let's bring it up to this camera. It doesn't quite join nicely. It needs to be blended in some more. And over here, I actually have a stone that I was hoping would look quite nice being cast in place and whatnot. But now it's just sticking up so proud. Oh, gosh, this camera. The stone is sticking up so proud that it would actually just be quite uncomfortable to wear, and it looks really gross. So I'm actually going to remove that stone and file that section down. So cleaning up a big bangle like this, it does take a bit of work. Does take a nice sharp file. some elbow grease. But also, I just took that stone out, by the way. I just used my side cutters to gently prise it out. It's just silver, it's soft. But also that barrel burr is going to be your friend because it's going to do a lot of work for you. So I'm not going to worry about cutting off the sprues right now. You guys know how to do that. I'm just going to focus on the joins and cleaning up those join sections. So I could come in with my file, absolutely. And I could start filing that silver section down, the silver section that's sitting up proud and high where my two metals meet. Kind of gross. And look, I'll get there with the file. I will. And sometimes it's quite nice just to zone out and file away and file away. Or you could whack your safety glasses on and you get your barrel burr out or whatever it's called, and you can just really go to town. And it will take that metal off a lot faster than you can file it. Well, sometimes. Depends how chunky and coarse your file is. But I can tell you, it's a hell of a lot less work just moving your fingers, 5 centimeters, than it is using your whole arm to file something off. And if you know you've got a lot of work ahead of you, conserve your energy. Use your little barrel burr to get the worst of the extra metal off. Get the worst of the work done. And it really is spraying all over my face. Maybe I could angle it differently so that it wasn't all over my face.
No, that's not
Maybe
good.
That feels awkward. There we go. So just make sure you have your safety glasses on. That's all it is. And remember to keep your burr moving. If you let it stay in one spot, you're going to get this sort of like dug out section. Not too much of a problem though, because you can come back in with your file and smooth that down. So I'm just really coming into the inside of the spangle as well, where those two sections join. I'm just removing a bunch of metal. And on the other side of that join, there's a lump there as well, so let's get that off. All right, and now I'm going to come in with my file. Because no matter how much control I think I have, I'm still going to have a bit of a ripply surface using the barrel burr. So just finishing it off with the file is going to have that nice, clean, smooth surface. But I hardly have to remove any material now. This is me just filing it smooth so that it's aesthetically pleasing. Although I am going to actually blend that in a little bit more, I've decided. Just a little bit more. There we go. Fantastic. Let's go over the top of that one a little bit. I'm a bit rough. Sorry, guys. The whole bench is moving.
You're having a trip?
I know. I am. Earthquake. Alright, let's go on that inside as well. Smooth that all down. Add a little bit of a comfort fit so that the bangle doesn't have any sharp parts on the inside, so it comes over your wrist, over your hands without cutting you. So putting a comfort fit on something just means you're putting like a little profile on the inside of it, so a rounded little profile. So I don't know if you guys, let's show you. I did with my little burr dig in. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a gouge from where I didn't keep it moving. And so now I've got this big, well, it's not big, but I've got this little valley I've got to file out and blend in because my burr, I didn't keep it moving. So it's going to spend a canyon. So I'm just fixing that up. So it is quite important to make sure that that barrel burr keeps moving. Alright, that's blending it in now. let me do a little bit more work on this and then I'll show you. So I'm just going to put that comfort fit in, nice heavy comfort fit. Having a really rounded, smooth inside to your bangle just makes it feel so lush to wear, and it's such a nice feeling taking it off and on. So I quite like a heavy profile, a heavy comfort fit on the inside of my bangles. So I'm going to take that off, blend it all in, and then I'll show you guys what I've done with this join. And don't forget the profile on the other side. We're going to do the comfort fit on both sides. I think I want to leave that. Sometimes it's nice to, instead of blending in your two mixed metal sections, sometimes it's nice to leave that little bit of a jump between them, like a little bit of a raised section or a ledge or a gap, not gap, but just to differentiate the two metals. But if you decide you don't like that look, it's really easy just to file it back so it's all flush. So I'll just show you what I mean in a moment. Right, so what I'm talking about is, so over here, this is my copper section, and this is my silver section. And I've left that sort of lip, that little jump between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Where on this side, I haven't. I've blended it right in. So it's quite hard to see where the silver starts and the copper ends. So it's totally up to you on which look you want to go for. I always start off trying to keep them separate. And then if I don't like it from there, I can always remove the metal and make it flush. But if you go for flush first and then wish that you'd left a lip, left the difference, you can't go back. Not really. I mean, what you could do, the only thing you can do if you've changed your mind and you wish you'd left them separate and you don't like them mixed together, is you can come in with a really little ball burr, a really small one. I'm talking like 0.3 of a mil. Where would I do it? Yeah, okay, I'll do it on this one because it is flush. So you can come in where the two metals mix. You can come in with your little burr and you can follow the shoreline, I guess you'd say, between the copper and the silver. And you're just engraving around it to define where they mix.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the best you can do. If you change your mind and you wish that you've kept them separate, this is
so it's a little
option.
mini channel, is it?
That's it, yeah. So I'm just going to do it on this and then I'll show you guys what that looks like. I might actually emery it too so that you can see better, because I know all those file marks are quite hard to see. All right, so now I've just gone in with my ball burr. I don't know if you guys can see, but now you can, it's got quite a clear little lip between them, or a little groove between them, and it can help you see where they join or where one stops and one starts. If you don't like the fully blended look Speaking of like blended looks, I have something to show you guys. This is a ring that has been, so the twice cast technique, not twice cast, sorry, everything I've been doing is twice cast, because it's the cast your silver, cast your copper, cast your silver, cast your copper, cast your copper, cast your silver. This is true mixed metal casting, where at the same time 2 metals have been poured into the same mold. And I did this while I was in New Zealand. So we have silver on one half of the ring and copper on the other half of the ring. And they just blend together so beautifully. Like the transition is just so subtle. Let me get tissue, maybe you can see it. I don't know. Can you guys see that? Probably not.
We're getting a fairly good
kind
look
of
at
a little bit.
Yeah.
So where it transitions is just so subtle and beautiful and smooth. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to do more of this, but with, you know, gold. But, you know, gold doesn't grow on trees. Unfortunately. All right. Well, we're almost out of time. Don't really know what else I can show you, but what I can do is send through some photos of what I did, particularly this guy that I finished in front of your very eyes, so that you can have a better look at it, because cameras just don't do as good of a job, do they? Like video cameras. So I had that in the pickle because the silver was not as wide as it could be. So I just had that in the pickle to make it wider. I really love doing super smooth high polishes on my copper and having the silver really rough.
No, I think,
Anyway,
yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I'd just be reiterating exactly what I've just told you, you know, soldering, how to solder things together, how to clean them up. It is pretty basic, and it is really personal to what you want to do, and it's personal to the piece that you've created and what you want to bring out of it, or what comes out of it as you're working on it. Sometimes you'll start cleaning something up and you have an idea in your head of what you want it to look like, but it wants to take you on a completely different journey, and you end up having something not necessarily what you had in mind, but not a bad thing. Yeah. So that's pretty much all I have today.
It might be basic, but every day. And so what you've shown there is how you do it. Is on what to do for themselves.
That's it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's nice being able to see everybody's comments.
For sharing.
Because I can
you see that?
Yeah, because I don't know if Peter mentioned, but we're using a new streaming channel, and before I couldn't see any of the comments, and Peter would have to read them out to me, but I can actually see them on my monitor. It's very cool.
There you go. Yeah. No, that is good. So thank you to those who are with the Orchid Blue and Melissa, and if we've got any other, a bit too late, but she's watching from New Zealand now, so that's great, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah.
And the replay is always there on the Facebook page for you to have a look at. And
absolutely.
Jackie says, "Thank you, great as always." Thanks for your company, Jackie. Thank you so much, Jackie, for another wonderful demonstration, and enjoy our show.
I will. The Hobart show. Going to go see hopefully some show pigeons.
Is that right? You might buy one?
No. They're not there for buying. They're there for just like viewing. You know, people are showing off their absolute best bred pigeons. Not just pigeons. There's like all sorts of birds. There's all sorts of animals. You know, I'm pretty sure that's what the show's about. Just showing off like the best looking animal. But I'm looking forward to seeing the best looking birds.
Remind us of the name of your pet pigeon?
Pebble.
Pebble. That's
Her
it.
name is Pebble. Yeah. Princess Pebble Pigeon.
You'll be able to do a show and tell. Make sure you take a picture of Pebble with you to show the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
my common
thank you so
pigeon,
much for your company.
street pigeon.
And we'll look
Thank
forward
you
to
for
seeing you,
having me.
Kirra-lea, another time, and everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for watching, everyone.